When you start training yourself to be unbothered, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow and deliberate process of reprogramming how your mind reacts to life. Every human being is conditioned to react. Someone says something offensive and we want to defend ourselves. Someone doubts us and we feel the need to prove them wrong. Someone ignores us and our ego starts to scream for attention. When you begin to understand that peace is more valuable than being right, you start to detach from that constant need to react. You learn to choose silence over chaos. You learn to breathe instead of explode. You begin to rise above what used to shake you. And that's when your transformation begins. You see, every reaction is a choice, but most people don't realize they have that power. Habits of reacting to everything, every criticism, every insult, every challenge, that constant reactivity drains your energy and robs you of peace. When Tony Robbins talks about focus, he reminds us that our energy follows whatever we give attention to. If you constantly give your attention to negativity, you're feeding it. You're making it stronger. Direct your focus inward toward your growth, your peace, your mission. Everything changes. You stop living on emotional autopilot. You start choosing your battles wisely. You start valuing your calm over your ego. That's what it means to be unbothered, to stand so firmly in your peace that the noise out can't disturb you. Think about it. Most people are addicted to reaction. They want to respond to everything that offends them. They want to be heard, seen, validated. But validation is a trap. When you live for others' approval, you also die from their rejection. An unbothered person understands that people's opinions say more about them than they do about you. You stop asking, why don't they like me? And start saying, that's okay for everyone. The day you stop chasing acceptance is the day you find freedom. You don't have to prove your worth. You just have to live it, because your worth was never meant to be voted on. When you're unbothered, you become emotionally intelligent. You stop giving instant access to your peace. You understand that not everything deserves a reaction. You can listen to criticism and decide calmly whether it's useful or not. You can see insults and know they come from pain, not truth. You start recognizing that the person trying to hurt you is often hurting inside. React and you empathize and you move on. That's real power. Anyone can shout, but only the strong can stay silent when silence is strength. The beauty of being unbothered is that it gives you clarity. When your emotions aren't controlling you, you can finally think clearly. You can make smart decisions. You can see things as they are, not as your anger paints them to be. Life becomes lighter because you stop carrying everyone else's energy. You stop trying to control what people think or say. You realize that peace is not something you find, it's something you protect. You don't wait for calm circumstances to feel peaceful. You learn to create peace within chaos. That's the art of emotional mastery. There will always be people who misunderstand you. There will always be voices that criticize, question, or provoke you. But what matters is not their words, it's your reaction. Every time you respond with calm instead of anger, you strengthen your inner foundation. Every time you choose silence over drama, you gain power. Every time you let something go that once would have made you spiral, you evolve. You start noticing that your peace is no longer dependent on others. You can walk into any room and remain grounded because your calm doesn't depend on approval. It's yours. It's built. And here's the truth. Being unbothered doesn't mean you're emotionless. It means you're emotionally disciplined. It means you've learned to sit with your emotions without letting them control your behavior. Feel anger without acting on it. You can feel disappointment without losing focus. You can feel sadness without giving up. This is mastery. Most people are ruled by feelings. Unbothered person is ruled by awareness. They see their feelings like passing clouds, temporary, not permanent. That awareness is freedom. In life, there will always be distractions. People who test you, trigger you, setbacks that frustrate you. But every time you stay calm, you teach your nervous system that peace is safe. You rewire your brain to see stillness as strength, not weakness. You stop chasing closure and start creating boundaries. You stop explaining your peace to people who thrive on chaos. You realize that sometimes walking away is more powerful than proving a point. You start to see what truly matters: your purpose, your health, your happiness. The unbothered mindset is what separates leaders from followers. Leaders don't waste time reacting to noise. Focused on their vision, they understand that opinions change like the wind, but purpose remains constant. They've trained their emotions to serve their goals, not sabotage them. That's why they win. While others are busy fighting battles of ego, they're building empires of peace. They've learned that calm is not passive. It's powerful. It's what allows them to move strategically, not impulsively. When you truly become unbothered, you realize how much freedom you were missing before. You stop checking who's watching. You stop caring who's talking. You stop needing to be understood. You live your truth quietly, confidently, consistently. And ironically, that's when people start respecting you more, because strength is loud without words. Your calm intimidates those who live in chaos. Your peace confuses those who thrive on drama, but that's not your problem, it's your proof. So when life throws you storms, stay centered. When people provoke you, stay calm. When the world tries to pull you into chaos, breathe and remember you've worked too hard for your peace to give it away now. Every time you choose calm, you're building power. Every time you choose focus over frustration, you're mastering yourself. That's the secret of an unbothered mind. It's not that life becomes easier, it's that you become stronger. And when you reach that point, no matter what happens, you'll realize that being unbothered isn't indifference. It's the highest form of strength there is. When you stop letting everything get to you, Start seeing how much of your peace you've been giving away for free. Every time you react to something small, every time you let someone's words disturb your calm, you're handing over your energy to things that don't deserve it. Most people live their lives chasing control. They want to control what others say, how others behave. But the truth is, only real control you ever have is over yourself. Once you understand that, you start to pull your power back. You stop expecting the world to respect your peace, and you start protecting it yourself. That's the real art of being unbothered. It's not about being numb. It's about being powerful enough to stay composed no matter what's happening around you. You learn that peace is not something that just appears when everything is perfect. It's something you create even when nothing makes sense. The moment you stop reacting to negativity, you take away its fuel. Chaos can't survive in calm energy. It feeds on attention. When you refuse to feed it, it fades. People who try to provoke you eventually realize they can't win when you don't play the game. Your calmness becomes your armor. Your silence becomes your weapon. That's not weakness. That's strategy. And it's the kind of strategy that keeps your energy focused on growth instead of gossip, on purpose instead of pain. When Tony Robbins talks about focus, he doesn't just mean concentrating on goals. He means controlling where your mental and emotional energy flows. Every time you allow a petty situation to drag you into emotional drama, you lose focus, you lose clarity, you lose time. You can't reach greatness if you're constantly distracted by small things. Being unbothered is about keeping your emotional energy aligned with your mission. You learn to ask yourself before reacting, is this worth my peace? 90% of the time, the answer is no. Most of the things that upset you don't even matter in the long run. They won't change your life, your income, your happiness, or your purpose. So why give them power? Why let temporary nonsense interrupt your permanent peace? This mindset takes discipline. It's not easy to stay calm when you're being attacked or misunderstood. But emotional mastery is built through repetition. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you rewire your brain. You start creating a habit of composure. You stop reacting from emotion and start responding from awareness. You realize that every trigger is a teacher. It's showing you where you still have healing to do. So instead of getting angry, you get curious. Instead of reacting, you reflect. You ask, why does this bother me? And then you work on that part of yourself until it no longer has power over you. That's how you evolve. When you become unbothered, you stop living like a victim of circumstances. You start living like a master of your inner world. People can try to test you, but you've built boundaries they can't cross. You stop explaining your peace to people who live for drama. You stop trying to convince others of your value. You simply know it, live it, and let your results speak for you. When your energy becomes consistent, when you no longer rise and fall with other people's moods or opinions, that's when real confidence shows up. You start to glow differently because your peace gives you strength that can't be faked. Incredible power and restraint. In a world where everyone feels the need to respond instantly, to comment, to clap back, to prove something, the person who stays silent stands out. Not because they're weak, because they're in control. When you hold back your reaction, you maintain your dignity. You don't sink to the level of those who are trying to pull you down. You rise above it with grace. People notice that. They might not say it out loud, but deep down, they respect it. The loudest person in the room rarely has the most power. The calmest one does. Training yourself to be unbothered is about developing emotional resilience. Life will always test you. You'll face rejection, betrayal, misunderstanding, failure, and disappointment. Unbothered person sees these not as personal attacks, but as parts of the process. You stop taking everything personally. You understand that sometimes people project their pain onto you. Sometimes life delays your blessings to prepare you. You stop resisting and start trusting. You don't waste energy asking, why me? Instead, you ask, what is this teaching me? That shift in perspective is everything. It turns obstacles into opportunities for growth. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that peace doesn't mean everyone around you is peaceful. You've learned how to remain calm even when they're not. It means you can walk away without resentment. You can disagree without arguing. You can love people without losing yourself in the process. You can hear negativity and still choose optimism. You start recognizing that your peace is not dependent on the behavior of others. It's dependent on your emotional discipline. You decide what energy you allow into your life. And when something doesn't align with your peace, you walk away, not because you're cold, but because you're wise. The more you practice this mindset, the lighter life feels. You stop overthinking. You stop needing explanations for everything. You stop getting offended by things that used to bother you. Your peace becomes your priority. More time in gratitude, less in conflict. You focus on what's working instead of what's missing. You build a life that feels good on the inside, not one that just looks good on the outside. Start feeling truly alive because you're no longer a prisoner of other people's chaos. You've built a home within yourself where peace lives permanently. And when you reach that level of calm, your energy changes. You attract different situations. You attract people who are also grounded, mature, and peaceful. Chaos doesn't find comfort in your presence anymore because you don't feed it. You become magnetic in a quiet way. People start asking how you stay so calm, how you keep your balance. You don't let anything shake you. And the answer is simple. You stopped reacting and started observing. You stopped fighting everything and started flowing with life. You realize that you can't always control the waves, but you can learn to surf. So every time you feel your peace being disturbed, pause, breathe, Remind yourself that you've worked too hard to lose your calm over something temporary. You've trained your mind to stay grounded. You've built strength from silence. You've learned that the person who remains unbothered isn't avoiding life, they're mastering it, because real strength isn't loud, reactive, or aggressive. Real strength is calm. It's knowing who you are so deeply that no opinion, no insult, no storm can take that away. That's the power of an unbothered mind. It's freedom disguised as calm. When you decide to train yourself to be unbothered, you're not just learning how to ignore negativity. You're learning how to master your emotions, your reactions, and your energy. You begin to understand that most of what disturbs your peace isn't actually what's happening around you. It's what's happening inside you. It's your attachment to needing to be understood, your expectation that people should treat you the way you treat them, your desire for approval and fairness in a world that often offers neither. The more you grow, the more you realize that your emotional stability can't depend on external conditions. It has to come from within, because peace built on circumstances is fragile. It breaks as soon as things change. Built from self-awareness is unshakable. Every day, life gives you opportunities to practice being unbothered. The person who cuts you off in traffic, the friend who disappoints you, the coworker who tries to test your patience. All of them are lessons disguised as irritation. You can react, or you can rise. You can let them pull you into their storm, or you can invite them into your calm. You start realizing that every reaction is an energy exchange, and you get to decide who's worthy of your energy. Not everyone deserves access to your emotions. Not every situation deserves your response. Is learning to pause before you engage, to breathe before you speak, to think before you act. That pause, that small space between trigger and response, is where your power lies. Where the unbothered version of you is built, people who haven't learned emotional control will always try to shake those who have. When you don't react, it frustrates them. They want you to match their chaos because your calm exposes their lack of control. But instead of feeling angry, grateful, because you've reached a point where you no longer let someone else's lack of peace destroy yours. That's progress. It means you've learned the art of detachment, not from love or compassion, from unnecessary drama. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself enough to protect your inner world. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to change people who aren't ready to grow. You stop wasting time proving that your intentions are good. You simply move with integrity and let time reveal your truth. Being unbothered is one of the most liberating feelings in the world. It's freedom from emotional chaos. It's walking through life knowing that no matter what happens, you'll handle it. You won't fall apart. You won't lose yourself. You won't let temporary feelings dictate permanent choices. You'll face it, feel it, and move through it calmly. That doesn't mean you don't care about anything. Emotional strength. You've trained your mind to see challenges as teachers and setbacks as redirections. You understand that peace isn't avoiding pain. It's staying centered through it. That's what emotional maturity looks like. Tony Robbins teaches that your state, your mental and emotional condition, determines the quality of your life more than your circumstances do. When you're in a reactive state, everything feels bigger than it is. Every problem looks worse. Every comment feels personal. But when you stay in a calm and grounded state, nothing has the power to shake you. You start realizing that your peace is your greatest possession. You stop spending it on every little thing. You treat it like a priceless resource, something you invest only where it matters. Changes everything, because once you stop reacting to negativity, you start creating space for positivity. It's not that life becomes easier. It's that you become stronger. The same problems that once made you anxious now make you focused. The same people who once triggered you now teach you patience. You don't waste time explaining why you're not angry or defensive. You just don't feed into energy that's beneath your growth. You understand that some battles aren't worth fighting because they distract you from your purpose. When you start thinking this way, you begin to operate on a different frequency. One where peace, clarity, and self-respect lead the way. There's real power in learning to let go. You stop holding grudges. Stop seeking revenge. Stop replaying painful conversations in your head. You accept what happened, you learn from it, and you move forward. You realize that holding on to anger only keeps you stuck in the same energy you're trying to escape. Forgiveness becomes less about others and more about freeing yourself. You no longer carry the weight of resentment because you know it only slows you down. Being unbothered isn't just about ignoring negativity. It's about releasing the emotional baggage that used to control you. You stop being addicted to conflict, you start craving peace. As you train yourself to be unbothered, your priorities shift. You start choosing your mental health over arguments. You choose self-respect over validation. You choose silence over drama. You stop needing to be the loudest voice in the room because you know your energy speaks louder than words ever could. You learn to observe instead of absorb. You see how people project their insecurities and you no longer take it personally. You understand that everyone is fighting their own unseen battles. So instead of reacting with anger, you respond with compassion. It doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you know when to walk away quietly instead of wasting time proving a point. And slowly your peace starts intimidating people. Your silence bothers those who live for chaos. Your refusal to engage confuses those who need drama to feel alive. But that's not your burden to carry. You didn't become unbothered to make others comfortable. You did it to protect your soul. And in time, The same people who once tried to test you will notice that your peace is something they can't disturb anymore. That's when you know you've truly grown. You no longer need to win arguments. You've already won yourself. When you reach that level of self-control, you start noticing the world differently. You no longer see people as threats or challenges. You see them as mirrors, reflecting the parts of you that still need grow. You start to understand that the things that once triggered you were never about others. They were about your own ones. When you heal, the triggers disappear. That's why being unbothered isn't arrogance. It's awareness. You're no longer reacting to the world from pain. You're responding from power. So much of life changes when you realize that peace is a choice, not a gift. It's something you have to practice every single day. You have to remind yourself that not every situation deserves a reaction, that not everyone needs access to your energy, that sometimes silence says more than any response ever. You have to train yourself to pause before reacting, to smile when you want to argue, grounded when everything around you feels chaotic. Over time, that pause becomes your power. That stillness becomes your strength. And when you finally learn to live this way, life becomes lighter. You start sleeping better because your mind isn't replaying every negative interaction. You start feeling happier because you're not weighed down by other people's energy. Magnetic because peace has a presence. People feel it when you walk in the room. You stop forcing things and start attracting everything that aligns with your calm. You stop chasing validation because you already feel whole. You stop trying to change others because you're focused on mastering yourself. That's what it truly means to be unbothered. Not to ignore life, rise above it with grace, focus, and quiet power.